Dad was not without love. But a cliched Irish drinker, brawler, all that stuff. Never shed a tear. Saw weakness everywhere, everywhere. But he had this thing for poems, poetry. Reading them, quoting them. Probably thought it rounded him off, you know. His way of apologizing, I guess. And there was one that hung over the desk in his den. It was only when I was a lot older I realized he had written it. It was untitled. 4 lines. I read it at his funeral. Once more into the fray. Into the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day.
Do we have everything to fear, including fear itself, as you have once said before?
We have everything to fear, including fear itself, and the bad news hasn't yet hit, I don't think.
I think you may be right.
We're all into a losing struggle. No one has ever beaten these odds. I've looked up ahead, or if you prefer, down the road. I know what's coming. I know no one beats these odds. And it's a matter of getting used to that and growing up and realizing that you're expelled from your mother's uterus as if shot from a cannon towards a barn door studded with old nail files and rusty hooks. It's a matter of how you use up the intervening time in an intelligent and ironic way and try not to do anything ghastly to your fellow creatures. That leaves us with the question of why should we care? Somehow I'm glad that at least that bit of our innate nature is useful. But if we praise ourselves for what's innate, we're going to be praising a lot of very unpleasant things too. And there's no way around that. There's only the pretense that there's a way around it. And the second reason why it appeals is I don't know why this is, because I don't see what there is to fear in it. You're not going to know when you're dead. You're not going to know it. So there's nothing to be frightened of. But people are frightened of death. And the central lie of all religion is that there's a cure for this. And an exception will be made in your own case. An eternal life offered if you make the right propitiations and the right abjections. Well, I'm sorry. I think that's the height of immorality to lie to people like that. But that's why it survives. That's why it survives.
Now, some of you know, well, I guess you all know now, that the words of one of my favourite poets, Ernest Dowson, are quite often with me. Dowson stole them actually from the Roman poet Horace. Non sum qualis eram. I'm not as I was. And though, as I know as well as you do, there's no point in arguing about the actual date.
There's an author called Robert Graves, who wouldn't be far out of her reach, I don't think. There's wonderful tales of Greek and Roman mythology, actually Greek stuff. It's pretty good.
I've already read those.
You've read all of them?
Yes.
This is getting worse and worse. She's floored me twice now. This is like the rabbis confronting Jesus outside the temple, you know.
Well, I was eager to meet famous freethinkers, and because I want to grow up to be a freethinker. My mom says I'm not, but I already am.
I really wish you well, Grace. I wish there were more like you. Actually, what would we do if there were too many? Lots of love. Take it easy. Remember the love bit.
The great Sigmund had an excellent point. He said, well, if you examine religion, however sympathetically or unsympathetically, you're forced to notice the strong connection between the wish and the thought. The element of wish thinking is unbanishable from religion, mainly because we're the only species that definitely knows that one by one we're going to die. To give someone the suggestion that maybe an exception could be made in their own case is making a fairly obvious offer.
I wouldn't concede that for a second. I don't want to make a claim for its superiority either, but there may be a slight edge here. We don't believe anything that could be called wishful. In other words, we don't particularly welcome the idea of the annihilation either of ourselves as individuals, the party will go on and we'll have left and we're not coming back, or of the entropic heat death of the universe. We don't like the idea, but there's a good deal of evidence to suggest that that is what's going to happen. And there's very, very little evidence to suggest that I'll see you all again in some theme park. One nice and one nasty experience. There's absolutely no evidence for that at all, so I'm willing to accept, on the evidence, conclusions that may be unwelcome to me. I'm sorry if I sound as if I'm spelling that out.
But when Socrates was sentenced to death for his philosophical investigations and for blasphemy, for challenging the gods of the city, and he accepted his death, he did say, well, if we are lucky, perhaps I'll be able to hold conversation with other great thinkers and philosophers and doubters too. In other words, that the discussion about what is good, what is beautiful, what is noble, what is pure and what is true could always go on. Why is that important? Why would I like to do that? Because that's the only conversation worth having. And whether it goes on or not after I die, I don't know. But I do know that it's the conversation I want to have while I'm still alive. Which means that to me, the offer of certainty, the offer of complete security, the offer of an impermeable faith that can't give way, is an offer of something not worth having. I want to live my life taking the risk all the time that I don't know anything like enough yet, that I haven't understood enough, that I can't know enough, that I'm always hungrily operating on the margins of a potentially great harvest of future knowledge and wisdom. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'd urge you to look at those of you who tell you, those people who tell you at your age that you're dead till you believe as they do. What a terrible thing to be telling to children. And that you can only live, and that you can only live by accepting an absolute authority. Don't think of that as a gift. Think of it as a poisoned chalice. Push it aside, however tempting it is. Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way. Thank you.